The People's United Party invited the media to a conference at Independence Hall this afternoon, where they spoke of Friday's unfortunate incidents that occurred inside and outside the National Assembly building in Belmopan. Addressing the gathering first was the leader of the opposition, John Briceño.
Today we are here to serve notice that we have had enough and we will take it no more. What happened in the House of Representatives last week, Friday, was not only a national embarrassment and a disgrace, but also a direct, calculated attack on our Belizean democracy.
It was an unfortunate series of events as elected representative for the Cayo South Division, Julius Espat, was forcefully removed from the House after he made a statement which the Speaker of the House, Michael Perafit, found offensive, and as a result, Espat was asked to leave the House. Espat refused to leave, and after several persons within the House were unable to convince him to do so, and after the Speaker had refused his apology, the police was brought in to take him out. Opposition leader John Briceño lays the blame at the feet of the Barrow administration, and he explained why this afternoon.
What was the cause of this dark day in our democracy? UDP corruption. It is now clear that what transpired at last Friday's House sitting was no coincidence. It was planned and designed by the UDP leadership. Let us not forget that the Honorable Julius Espat, the member for Cayo South, was debating the Auditor General's report on immigration, revealing the findings of the worst passport scandal in Belizean history. He was revealing to the Belizean people that this UDP government has issued more than 55,000 fraudulent passports and visas. He was publicizing the fact that almost every minister in this UDP cabinet, including the Prime Minister, is implicated in the mother of all scandals. What was being exposed was undeniable, widespread, and deep-rooted proof of corrupt dealings by UDP ministers, councillors, and their supporters. Honorable Espat was exposing the hypocrisy of the Prime Minister and unprecedented corruption by the UDP administration. He was doing his job. He was serving the people. And so we demand an apology from the Speaker, the immediate lifting of the suspension of Honorable Julius Espat, and the restoration of all his rights and privileges as a member.
Briceño went on to state that the Barrow administration has shown an obscene abuse of power, and the Speaker of the House has brought the House into disrepute.
At this point, we must give maximum respect and praises to the Auditor General and her team for the quality and volume of the audits in the face of repeated resistance. In the face of repeated resistance and pressure exerted by high-ranking members of this UDP government. This UDP criminal enterprise of unprecedented size has prostituted the Belizean citizenship and undermined the integrity of the Belizean passport. These actions will make it increasingly difficult for Belizeans to travel, to apply for visas, and to be respected as we travel abroad. It is very possible that terrorists and international criminals are now traveling on Belizean passports issued by this UDP government. Our national security is at risk as these same criminals and terrorists, when on the run, have a right to enter and remain in Belize. This is the work of the Barrow government. Belizeans are rightly outraged and alarmed. It was the voice of the PUP in the House that led the UDP to create the single most undemocratic and unparliamentary day in Belizean democracy. Not in my 23 plus years in the National Assembly did I experience anything close to what we experienced last Friday. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, the events at last Friday's meeting of the House of Representatives was an obscene abuse of the power by the Speaker with the complicity of the UDP government. The Speaker showed his bias and unrestrained acts of intimidation against members of the opposition. He disgraced the office of the Speaker. He brought the House into disrepute, and he is a complete disgrace. The Honorable Michael Perfit has consistently allowed members on the government side to hurl insults, impute improper motives to members of the opposition, use unparliamentary language, and even allow members of the government side to disparage the good name of people who are not members of the House, while consistently restraining members of the opposition when we attempt to defend our positions. The Speaker has disrespected the opposition's role and has subjected elected PUP representatives of the people to new and unprecedented levels of contempt by the UDP administration. It is clear that on Friday, he had no right to call for the naming of the member for Kyle South who had already apologized. It was the Speaker who was out of order. This would not be allowed to continue.
The press conference revealed that this is only the beginning of protests and objections to what the Barrow administration is doing. After all that is said and done in the sitting of the House on Friday, August 26, 2016, to clarify where the elected official for Kyle South currently stands, we asked him to talk to us on his status.
We have had no communication, but as far as we understand and as far as we have investigated them, there is no legal suspension. So.
And the clerk of the National Assembly has not sent you anything?
Neither.
And has there been any communication between you and perhaps the Prime Minister or anybody from the other side regarding what happened?
None at all. I don't really have communication with them anyway, so I don't expect any.
The party says that they have been doing their legal research as to how the entire issue was handled by the Speaker of the House, Michael Perfit.
You don't have to be a trained attorney to know or to feel that what happened on Friday to the Honorable Julius Espat was unjust. I think you don't even have to be a PUP. I think all Belizeans, regardless of political affiliation, in their gut felt their democratic rights being stripped away from them as that was unfolding in the House. But I can also rest assured the public that the Honorable Julius was standing and literally sitting on solid legal ground, because the standing orders that the Honorable Prime Minister and all his colleagues and even the House Speaker keep claiming that they know so much about, they showed on Friday that they were in violation of practically all of these standing orders. There are three possible measures, three sanctions that the House Speaker could have utilized in the course of addressing the Honorable Julius Espat. The first is that he could have, if he felt that the Honorable Julius was being tedious or repetitious, he could have asked him to end his presentation and to sit down. That is 44.1. It says, the Speaker, after having called the attention of the House to the conduct of a member who persists in irrelevance or tedious repetition either of his own arguments or of the arguments used by other members in the debate, may direct him to discontinue his speech and to resume his seat. Now, if you would recall, the Speaker of the House threatened the Honorable Julius Espat. He said that the topic that you chose is too wide, it's too broad, you need to be more specific. Now, that is not the fault of Julius Espat, that there is so much corruption in government, you know. Because on the adjournment, all 12 parliamentarians were going to speak on issues of national importance. Corruption was only one of them, and that was being handled by the Honorable Julius Espat. So Mike Perifit, as the Speaker, felt, my God, this man is bringing everything out of it today. And so he felt threatened by the fact that Honorable Julius was going to speak on all aspects of good governance and corruption in public life. And so that upset him right off the bat. But what is important as it relates to this section is that he never told him or ordered him to end his presentation. That is important when we go to the section that deals with naming. What we need to realize here is that the honorable member, Honorable Julius, wanted to apologize, and that is what this section says, that you are to be offered the right to apologize, and the House meeting, the business of the people, is to continue. But the Speaker was so irate, he was so offended, that he decided to take a drastic step. And so it's not the withdrawal, because that withdrawal would only have been for the day. He did not apply this section of the law. He went to naming a member, which is not applicable in this situation, because this requires that Julius Espat, the member for Kaya South, disregarded the authority of the Speaker. For instance, had the Speaker said, Honorable Member, desist from your presentation and sit down, and Julius continued with his presentation, then he shows he has disregard for the order of the House Speaker. This section says, and this is the one that deals with naming, this is the drastic measure employed by Mr. Perifit. If a member shows disregard for the authority of the chair or abuses the rules of the House by persistently and willfully obstructing the business of the House or otherwise, the Speaker shall direct the attention of the House thereto, mentioning by name the member concerned. The Speaker shall then call upon a minister to move, and it quotes, that Mr. Julius Espat be suspended from the service of the House. Now, again, fraught with irregularities. The procedure applied by Honorable Sede Elrington and the Speaker of the House, fraught with irregularities, because Sede Elrington, the Foreign Minister, did not call Julius Espat by name, and that is what he was legally bound to do. Mike Espat was so riled up that he called his name. He said, Julius, Mike Perifit, sorry Mike, Mike, sorry about that. Mike Perifit was so riled up that he said the name Julius Espat. And again, not in accordance with these standing orders. And after Mr. Elrington, if he had so complied with these rules and he had said the Honorable Julius Espat's name, it says that the Speaker shall forthwith then put the question, meaning he had to have put it to a vote. So after Sede Elrington had said Julius Espat's name, if he had so done so, then Mike Perifit ought to have put it to a vote to the House and say all those in favor of suspending Julius Espat say aye, all those against say nay. That also was never done. Mike Perifit picked up from his seat and abandoned his post. That is what was done. And thereafter, all hell broke loose, including an attack on the media, because the Speaker, before leaving his chair, did not clear the media from the gallery. And so the police officers, I don't know whose instructions they were acting on, then acted unlawfully, because Jules Vasquez is right. He had all right to be where he was recording history.
The PUP is also looking at filing a lawsuit.